You know what's strange? Some of the people who look the richest, the ones with the new car in the driveway, the designer clothes, the fancy vacations, are often the ones lying awake at night worrying about money. And meanwhile, the person who still drives a 10-year-old car, wears the same jacket they've had forever and never makes a big deal about money, might actually be the one with real wealth. It's a paradox we don't talk about enough, because we're trained to believe that rich looks a certain way. Big house, fancy lifestyle, always upgrading. But here's the truth nobody tells you. Wealth rarely looks like what you expect, and if you don't feel rich yet, it might have nothing to do with your income. That's what we're going to unpack in this video. Because by the time we're done, you're going to see wealth in a totally different way. You'll understand why some people making six figures still feel broke, while others making far less live with real freedom. And most importantly, you'll walk away with a new lens, a way to start feeling wealthier without waiting 10 years or hitting some magic number in your bank account. So let me tell you a quick story. A friend of mine, we'll call him Daniel, got a big promotion a few years back, huge jump in salary, life-changing honestly. I remember asking him how it felt. I expected him to be glowing. But you know what he said? Honestly, I still feel broke. At first I laughed. I thought he was joking. How can you feel broke when your paycheck just doubled? But then he explained. He'd moved into a bigger apartment, bought a better car, started going out more. His expenses grew almost as fast as his income, and within months, what once felt like abundance became his new, barely enough. That's when it hit me. Feeling rich has less to do with how much you make and everything to do with how you experience money. Because here's the kicker, you can keep leveling up, but if your lifestyle keeps rising to match, you'll never feel like you've arrived. And that brings me to the first surprising truth. Wealth isn't about addition, it's about subtraction. Most people think the road to feeling rich is to keep stacking more income, more side hustles, more investments. And sure, those things matter, but the people who actually feel wealthy, they're the ones who cut out obligations, who shrink debt, who live below what they make so they can breathe. It's like carrying a heavy backpack. You can keep trying to build muscle so you can handle more weight. Or, you can take things out of the bag. Suddenly the walk feels easier. Not because you got stronger, but because you're carrying less. Now think about it. Who really feels wealthier? The person making $200,000 but drowning in car loans and credit card payments, or the person making $60,000 debt-free with a little cushion saved up? One of those lives looks rich on Instagram, the other actually feels rich on the inside. And here's another twist that might surprise you. Wealth is a feeling before it's a fact. That sounds backwards, right? But hear me out. Most people chase money as if the feeling of security and freedom comes later, after they hit $100K or $1 million or whatever number they've built up in their head. But talk to people who hit those milestones, and you'll notice something funny. They usually don't feel the way they thought they would. The finish line just moves. I once read about a janitor in Vermont who never earned a huge income. Modest salary his entire life. But he saved carefully, invested quietly, lived simply. When he passed away, people discovered he was a millionaire. His neighbors were stunned. But the truth is, he'd probably felt wealthier all along. Not because of the number itself, but because he wasn't trapped. He had freedom. Compare that to a lottery winner who blows millions in a few years and ends up bankrupt. One chased wealth as an appearance, the other built it as a lifestyle. And the funny part, the janitor probably felt richer the whole time. Here's the uncomfortable part. Society doesn't want you to feel rich, not yet, not ever. Every ad you see is engineered to whisper, you're not enough, you need more. That's why people making $80K want $150K, and people at $150K dream of $500,000. The bar always moves. So if you're waiting for money alone to flip that internal switch, you'll be waiting forever. That's why I'm asking you this. What would actually make you feel rich? Not rich in the Instagram sense. Not what your neighbors expect, you. Is it being able to cover rent without stress? Is it taking your kids out for ice cream without double-checking your bank account first? Is it waking up with a few months of savings, knowing you could handle a curveball? Those moments, those quiet little victories, are where real wealth hides. But most of us overlook them, racing toward the next shiny thing. And that brings us to a trap I want you to avoid: lifestyle inflation. Remember Daniel? That's what got him. The second his income grew, his spending adjusted. New normal? Nicer car, bigger rent, what felt luxurious for a week turned into baseline, and before long he didn't feel rich, he felt just as stretched as before. The brain does this automatically. It adapts. Psychologists call it the hedonic treadmill. You run faster, buy more, upgrade constantly, but your emotional baseline doesn't move. Unless you step back and say, no, this is enough, I don't need to keep running. That's why people with less can sometimes feel wealthier. They're not measuring by upgrades, they're measuring by freedom. Let me paint you a picture. Two neighbors live side by side. One drives a shiny new SUV, makes big upgrades, always chasing the next best thing. The other drives an older car, doesn't flash their money but has no debt and a little tucked away. Now which one do you think sleeps better at night? Which one can say no to things they don't want to do? Which one feels less trapped? That's the real definition of rich. Options. The ability to choose. The freedom to walk away if you want to. And the best part? You don't need $1 million for that. You just need enough space to breathe. My grandfather once said something to me that I brushed off at the time, but now I see how wise it was. I asked him if he ever wished he'd been rich, and he said, I was rich every morning I had breakfast with my family. Everything else was extra. Back then, I rolled my eyes. Sounded like a cliche. But the older I get, the more I realize he was right. Because the richest moments are usually the simplest. And when you miss those, chasing something shinier, you never feel satisfied. That's what nobody tells you. The moment you realize wealth isn't about showing off, you stop being a customer, and you start being free. So here's where it gets interesting. Most people think they're broke because they don't make enough money. But when you actually talk to people making more than you, sometimes a lot more, you'll notice something surprising. They don't always feel rich either. They'll tell you, man, after taxes, bills, and everything else, it feels like nothing is left. And that should make you pause. Because if both the person earning $2,000 a month and the person earning $20,000 a month can feel broke, then clearly the problem isn't just income. That's a little uncomfortable to admit, right? Because it means the game might be deeper than just make more money. Think about it like this. Have you ever gone grocery shopping when you were starving? You grab way more than you need, chips, snacks, random frozen meals you didn't even plan for, because you're operating out of hunger, not clarity. Money works the same way. If you're always moving through life with this feeling of lack, then no matter how much you bring in, you'll always grab for more, spend faster, and still feel like you came home empty. And here's the twist. Feeling rich isn't about reaching a certain number. It's about shifting out of that hungry shopper mindset into something calmer, more intentional. That shift is the difference between always chasing and actually feeling like you're ahead. Let me give you an example. A friend of mine once got a raise that bumped his salary by 40%. He thought it was going to change everything. But within 6 months, he had upgraded his apartment, added subscriptions, started dining out more, and, get this, he told me he felt even more stressed about money than before. Isn't that crazy? His lifestyle caught up to his income so quickly that he didn't even notice the extra margin he thought he'd have. Here's the real kicker. The stress he felt wasn't because of what he had, but because of how fast he adjusted to it. And that's one of the first little secrets. The feeling of being rich often slips away when you let lifestyle move faster than gratitude. Pause for a second and ask yourself this. When was the last time you actually noticed something small in your life that used to feel out of reach? Maybe the apartment you live in now was once something you dreamed of. Maybe that phone you're holding is 10 times more powerful than the computers billionaires used in the 90s. But because we normalize it, we stop feeling the richness of it. Here's a funny way to look at it. Imagine time traveling and giving your current life to your 12-year-old self. They'd probably run around screaming with excitement. You mean I have my own room? And Netflix, and a fridge full of food? But you, right now, are scrolling through life thinking, I'm still not where I want to be. That gap between expectation and reality is where richness either blooms or dies. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying just be grateful and forget about growth, not at all. Growth is part of the richness, but here's the balance most people miss. Gratitude makes you feel rich now, while growth ensures you become richer later. Without gratitude, you'll always be chasing. Without growth, you'll stagnate. You need both. Let's loop back to something I mentioned earlier, the hungry shopper. Remember how you buy things you don't need when you shop starving? Well, life works the same way. If you don't slow down and train yourself to feel full in the moment, you'll always chase more stuff that doesn't satisfy you. The car, the clothes, the gadgets, they'll feel exciting for about a week. Then your brain resets and suddenly you're back to starving again. This is why some of the richest people in the world live surprisingly simple lives. Think Warren Buffett eating the same breakfast from McDonald's for decades. Think about the millionaires driving cars that are 10 years old. They've learned to disconnect their identity from the constant hunger for more. And because of that, they feel rich in ways others don't. Let me ask you this. What's one thing you thought would make you feel rich once you got it? But now it's just part of the background? Was it a pair of shoes, a new phone, or maybe even that first apartment upgrade? Think about that for a second. Because noticing how quickly your brain normalizes things is the first step to breaking the cycle. And here's where we dive a little deeper. Feeling rich is less about accumulation and more about alignment. When how you live matches what you actually value, you suddenly feel more abundant, even if the numbers in your bank account haven't changed much. For example, I know someone who makes an average income but lives like they're wealthy, not because they buy fancy things, but because their life is aligned. They love nature, so they live near a park and spend their weekends hiking. They value time with family, so they keep their schedule light enough to actually enjoy it. They don't drive a luxury car, but they're not weighed down by debt either. And you know what? When you talk to them, they sound richer than people with 5 times their income. That should tell you something powerful. Richness is a feeling of alignment, not a number in your bank. Now let me circle back to that story I started earlier about my friend with the raise. I left you hanging for a reason because his story has a twist. After a year of feeling stressed, despite his higher income, he started tracking his money for the first time. Just tracking, not budgeting in a restrictive way, just noticing where it all went. And here's the wild part. Within 3 months, he felt richer. Nothing else had changed. His salary was the same, his rent was the same, his bills were the same, but because he saw his money clearly, it stopped feeling like sand slipping through his fingers. That little act of awareness shifted his whole mindset. Think about that. Awareness alone made him feel wealthier. That's how much of this is mindset. So let me leave you with a reflective question. If nothing in your income changed for the next 6 months, what small shift could you make that would make you feel richer today? Is it gratitude? Tracking your money? Cutting one thing that drains you but doesn't add value? Or maybe just slowing down enough to notice the things your younger self would be amazed by? Because here's the truth most people miss. Feeling rich comes before being rich. And often, the people who learn how to feel it first are the ones who actually end up building it for real. Here's the part that most people miss when they're chasing wealth. It's not a finish line. It's a rhythm. And like any rhythm, if you keep in step, gratitude, awareness, growth, it starts to carry you forward almost effortlessly. Remember my friend who felt poorer after getting a raise? Once he slowed down and started paying attention, he realized something profound. The feeling of richness wasn't hiding in the extra money, it was hiding in his ability to notice, to choose, and to align. That same lesson applies to you and me. And remember that hungry shopper image we talked about earlier? That wasn't just about groceries, it's about life. If you're constantly rushing, constantly feeling starved for more, you'll always overfill your cart with things that don't satisfy. But the moment you pause, step back, and walk into life with a calmer appetite, you notice you already have plenty. That's when you begin to feel truly rich. Here's the timeless truth I want you to carry. Wealth is not about the future version of you with a bigger paycheck, a bigger house, or a bigger car. It's about the present version of you learning to master small habits, practicing awareness, and choosing to see abundance where others only see lack. That's the soil where financial freedom grows. Because here's the secret, small repeated actions are more powerful than dramatic one-time changes. Writing down what you spend, pausing before buying something, taking 5 minutes every day to notice the richness you already have. These tiny things compound, and over time they transform you, quietly, steadily, until one day you realize you're living the life you used to dream about. Think back for a second, your younger self, the one we talked about earlier, the kid who would have lost their mind to see the life you're living today. That version of you is still here, and the more you honor them, the more you notice the richness you already stand in, the more momentum you build for the life you're still creating. So if you don't feel rich yet, remember, feeling rich comes first. Building wealth follows. And the truth is they're not two separate journeys. They're the same road. Gratitude fuels you. Awareness guides you. Growth keeps you moving. Take one step today. One. That's all you need. Because every step compounds into something bigger. And if this video resonated with you, if it made you pause, reflect, or maybe even breathe a little easier, stick around. Subscribe if you haven't already, because this channel is about more than just money tips. It's about building a life that feels abundant and free. And if you want to keep going right now, I'd recommend watching the video that's about to pop up on screen. Think of it as the next step in this conversation we've been having, because you're not as far from feeling rich as you think. In fact, you're already standing on it, you just need to notice.